Hi, this is Dr. Vince Belanzi. I want to talk a little bit more about organic foods. There's a lot of controversy about whether it's worth it to perhaps pay more, and you don't necessarily have to pay more. There's ways to get around that. But organic foods versus industrialized foods. And the reason I want to bring this up is because we have this concept that it doesn't make any difference in some circles. And there's been a couple studies in Britain, there's been a couple studies here indicating that it doesn't make a difference. Calorie is a calorie, doesn't make a difference whether the broccoli was grown by some big company and whether there was pesticides used and the soil was sterilized and on and on and on. And contrasting that to perhaps something in your garden or something that was grown on a small farm where the plant actually had to, in a sense, be more self-reliant. The plant had to take care of itself. So there was stress on the plant. There were bugs. There were wind, rain, all that kind of stuff. And there were things in the soil. Problem is you can't make a grand determination like there's a difference between them if you don't design your study right. And I want to bring that up because a couple of studies, they just basically asked people after a few weeks, some ate organic, some didn't, did you feel better? And yeah, that's one way to judge things, but it wasn't a very well done study. Another study, they measured the levels of vitamin A, C, and E in the plants. And you may be able to find certain levels that correspond between, say, an industrialized plant or non-organic plant and an organic plant. But the real key to organic foods is that, I hate to use the word natural, but they were grown in a way that our bodies are accustomed to dealing with as well. And the real key term is called xenohormesis. You have to consider the fact that plants do communicate to us. That's been validated by many studies. So if you consider the fact that a plant that's out there on its own will grow what we'll call stress chemicals, stress hormones. Plants don't necessarily have human hormones, but they have things that can mimic and have some similar action. The plants make certain chemicals, depending a lot on what they've been through. We know that. And the level of those chemicals goes way up depending on the stress. So if I had a plant that was in sterilized soil, that maybe was designed to be pest resistant, that I sprayed a bunch of chemicals on so I get better yields, that I hybridize or perhaps even genetically modified, that's not the same plant. We know that getting different proteins in the body can present a problem all by itself. But let's just talk about the fact that going from organic to non-organic is different communication. Now they've found that the plants do have chemicals that they produce in response to the stress. And these chemicals don't even need to be available in a large amount. A little bit can actually induce our bodies to have some great response. That's what hormetic effect means. So if I eat an organic vegetable and it's been out there on its own and it's created these stress chemicals and has read the environment for me, I will get that communicated to my body. And it may just take a few molecules of that chemical from that plant to stimulate my body to do some things in advance in preparation for what's the plant's seeing in the environment. Or it may be things that are necessary for my body to do, say for the pathway of the breakdown of hormones or for my body to actually be regulated and run. I need these receptors in my body to be stimulated or communicated to from these chemicals. So I get a little chemical out of a plant, I get it into my system, into my gut, other places, and receptors are stimulated, and my body takes action. I don't get that from the plant that's grown industrially. Also, if you sterilize the soil, it's looking like there were things in the soil. We used to eat a bit of dirt. We used to pull up that vegetable, and even you wash it off, you'd still get possibly some organisms, some minerals, some things from the dirt, and we don't eat that anymore. The dirt is prepared before they put the plants in, so they'll do better. And the way that they fertilize them is different than a more natural situation. So it's not the same if you talk about organic and non-organic. In fact, a lot of plants have been modified so that people will find them more pleasant. But it's the bitter taste many times, or the things that were, in a sense, objectionable in the vegetables that were the nutrients that I'm talking about. So it's not just about a few vitamins, a few minerals. It's about all the nutritive value of the plant. And the fiber is different. It's a different plant if it's grown in a different environment. So we have to keep this in mind. And it seems that there are some great advantages to eating organic foods. So I recommend that you do it whenever you can. It's not always possible. At least get some vegetable intake. If you're not buying organic, well, try to wash off the pesticides, and because we do know that you're going to pick some up. The plant takes them up, but at least get the surface pesticides washed off. If you can get organic, though, you're going to benefit because you don't necessarily have to clean the pesticides off. You aren't going to get a dose of that. You're going to get these phytonutrients in the right amount. You're going to get the proper communication, and you're going to get some of those nutrients and organisms that are beneficial to you from the dirt, from the environment that the plant grew in. So there's a lot of reasons that we can cite that organic is, I'll say, better than non-organic. So make it a point of making better choices. What I see in people is not that we have to count calories. What I see is that people do better with their weight management, with their health management, if they're making better choices. So if generally you're getting a good intake of vegetables, if generally you're eating good proteins, if generally you're eating good fats, you're going to be much better off rather than somebody who eats for convenience all of the time. And organic food can be convenient. We just have to change lifestyle a little bit. So this is Dr. Vince Belanzi. Don't get too wrapped up in headlines. Maybe look at the studies or investigate things a little bit more. But there is a difference health-wise in choosing natural foods. Thanks for listening. Live healthy.